Shalom and good afternoon. Today we're reading 1 Samuel chapter 21. And Dod came to Nob to Abimelech the Kohan, and Abimelech trembled when he met Dod, and asked him, Why are you alone, and no one is with you? And Dod said to Abimelech the Kohan, The sovereign has commanded me a word, and said to me, Let no one know whatever of the word about which I send you, in which I have commanded you, and I have directed my young men to such and such a place. And now, what do you have on hand? Give 5 loaves into my hand, or whatever is found. And the Kohan answered Dod and said, There is no ordinary bread on hand, but there is Kadesh bread, provided the young men have kept themselves from women. And Dod answered the Kohan and said to him, Truly, women have been kept from us about 3 days since I came out. And the vessels of the young men are Kadesh, and it is an ordinary mission, and also it was Kadesh in the vessel today. Then the Kohan gave him Kadesh bread, for there was no bread there except the showbread which had been taken from before Yahu'ah, in order to put hot bread in on the day it was taken away. Now one of the servants of Shaul was there that day, detained before Yahu'ah, and his name was Doreg, an Edomite, and the chief of the herdsmen who belonged to Shaul. And Dod said to Abimelech, Is there not here on hand a spear or a sword? For I have brought neither my sword nor my weapons which with me, because the matter of the sovereign was urgent. And the Kohan said, The sword of Goliath the Pelishite, whom you smote, is in the valley of Elah. See, it is wrapped in a garment behind the shoulder garment. If you would take it, for there is none other except this one here. And Dod said, There is none like it. Give it to me. And Dod rose and fled that day from before Shaul, and went to Achish, the sovereign of Gath. But the servants of Achish said to him, Is this not Dod, the sovereign of the land? Did they not sing of him to each other in dances, saying, Shaul smote his thousands, and Dod his 10,000s? And Dod took these words to heart, and was very much afraid of Achish, the sovereign of Gath, and changed his behavior before them, and feigned madness in their hands, and scratched on the doors of the gate, and let his saliva run down his beard. And then Achish said to his servants, Look, you see the man is acting like a madman. Why do you bring him to me? Am I short of madmen that you have brought this one to act as a madman near me? Should this one come into my house? Chapter 22. And Dod went from there and escaped to the cave of Adullam. And his brothers and all his father's houses heard it, and he went down to him there. And everyone who was in distress, everyone who was in debt, and everyone bitter in being gathered to him. So he became head over them, and there were about 400 men with him. And Dod went from there to Mitzvah of Moab, and said to the sovereign of Moab, Please let my father and mother come here with you till I know what Yahu'ah does for me. And he left them with the sovereign of Moab, and they dwelt with him all the time that Dod was in the stronghold. And the Nabi Gad said to Dod, "Do not remain in the stronghold. Leave and go to the land of Yahu'ah." So Dod left and went into the Hereth woods. And Shaul heard that Dod and the men who were with him had been discovered. While Shaul was in Gibah, sitting under a tarmask tree in Ramah, with his spear in his hand, and all his servants standing about him. And Shaul said to his servants who were standing around him, "Hear now, you Benjamites. Does the son of Yishai give every one of you fields and vineyards, and make you all commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds? For all of you have conspired against me. And there is no one who reveals to me that my son has made a covenant with the son of Yishai. And there is not one of you who is grieved for me or reveals to me that my son has stirred up my servant against me to lie in wait, as it is this day." And Doeg the Edomite, who was put over the servants of Shaul, answered and said, "I saw the son of Yishai going to Nob, to Abimelech, son of Ahitub. And he inquired of Yahu'ah for him, gave him food, and gave him the sword of Goliath the Pelishite. And the sovereign sent someone to call Abimelech, the Kohan, son of Ahitub, in all his father's house, the Kohanim who were in Nahab, and they all came to the sovereign. And Shaul said, "Hear now, son of Ahitub." And he answered, "Here I am, my master." And Shaul said to him, "Why have you conspired against me, you and the son of Yishai, by giving him bread and a sword, and have inquired of Yahu'ah for him to rise against me to lie in wait, as it is this day?" And Abimelech answered the sovereign and said, "And who among all your servants is so trustworthy as Dod, who is the sovereign's son-in-law, and has turned aside to your counsel, and is esteemed in your house? Have I today begun to inquire of Yahu'ah for him? Far be it from me. Let not the sovereign lay a case against his servant, or against any in the house of my father. For your servant knew not of all this, little or much." And the sovereign said, "You shall certainly die, Abimelech, you and all your father's house." The sovereign then said to the guards who stood about him, "Turn and put the Kohanim of Yahu'ah to death, because their hand also is with Dod, and because they knew when he fled, and did not reveal it to me, but the servants of the sovereign would not lift their hands to come against the Kohanim of Yahu'ah." And the sovereign said to Doeg, "You turn and come against the Kohanim." So Doeg the Edomite turned and came against the Kohanim, and put to death on that day 85 men who swore a linen shoulder garment. And he smote Nob, the city of the Kohanim, with the edge of the sword, from men even to women, and from children even to nursing infants, and oxen and donkeys and sheep with the edge of the sword. And one of the sons of Abimelech, son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled after Dod. And Abiathar reported to Dod that Shaul had slain the Kohanim of Yahu'ah. And Dod said to Abiathar, "I knew that day when Doeg the Edomite was there, that he could certainly inform Shaul. I am accountable for all the lives of your father's house. Remain with me, do not fear, for he who seeks my life seeks your life, but with me you are safe. Chapter 23. And they informed Dod, saying, See, the Pelishites are fighting against Keilah, and they are plundering the threshing floors. So Dod inquired of Yahu'ah, saying, Shall I go and smite these Pelishites? And Yahu'ah said to Dod, Go and smite the Pelishites and save Keilah. And Dod's men said to him, See, we here in Yehuda are afraid. How much more then if we go to Keilah against the armies of the Pelishites? And Dod inquired of Yahu'ah once again, and Yahu'ah answered him again and said, Arise, go down to Keilah, for I am given the Pelishites into your hand. So Dod and his men went to Keilah and fought with the Pelishites, and he led away their livestock and smote them with a great smiting. Thus Dod saved the inhabitants of Keilah. And it came to be when Abiathar, son of Ahimelech, fled to Dod at Keilah, that he went down with a shoulder garment in his hand. And Shaul was informed that Dod had gone to Keilah. Then Shaul said, Yahu'ah has estranged him into my hand, for he has shut himself in by entering a town that has gates and bars. And Shaul summoned all the people to battle to go down to Keilah to besiege Dod and his men. And Dod knew that Shaul was plotting evil against him, but said to Abiathar the Kohan, Bring the shoulder garment here. And Dod said, O Yahu'ah, Eloah of Yashrael, your servant has heard for certain that Shaul seeks to come to Keilah to destroy the city for my sake. Are the landowners of Keilah going to surrender me into his hand? Is Shaul coming down, as your servant has heard? O Yahu'ah, Eloah of Yashrael, I pray, let your servant know. And Yahu'ah said, He is coming down. And Dod said, Are the landowners of Keilah going to surrender me and my men into the hand of Shaul? And Yahu'ah said, They are going to surrender you. Then Dod and his men, about 600, arose and left Keilah and went wherever they could go. And Shaul was informed that Dod had escaped from Keilah, and he ceased to go out. And Dod remained in the wilderness, in the strongholds, and remained in the hill country, in the wilderness of Ziph. And Shaul sought him every day, but Yahu'ah did not give him into his hand. And Dod saw that Shaul had come out to seek his life, while Dod was in the wilderness of Ziph at Horesh. And Jonathan, Shaul's son, arose and went to Dod at Horesh and strengthened his hand in Yahu'ah, and said to him, Do not fear, for the hand of Shaul my father is not going to find you, and you are to reign over Yashrael, and I am to be next to you. Even my father Shaul knows that. And they made a covenant before Yahu'ah. And Dod remained at Horesh, while Jonathan went to his own house. And the Ziphites came up to Shaul at Geba, saying, Is Dod not hiding with us in the strongholds of Horesh, in the hill of Hakeilah, which is on the south of the wasteland? And now, O sovereign, by all the desire of your being, come down, and our part is to surrender him into the sovereign's hand. And Shaul said, Barak are you of Yahu'ah, for you have sympathy with me. Please go, prepare yet further, and find out, and see the place where his hideout is. Who has seen him there? For I am told that he is very cunning. So look and learn all about the hiding places where he hides, and you shall come back to me with certainty. Then I shall go with you, and it shall be, if he is in the land, that I shall search for him throughout all the clans of Yahu'ah. And they rose up and went to Ziph before Shaul, while Dod and his men were in the wilderness of Ma'an, and the desert plain on the south of the wasteland. And Shaul and his men went to seek him, and they informed Dod. So he went down to the rock and remained in the wilderness of Ma'an. And when Shaul heard this, he pursued Dod in the wilderness of Ma'an. And Shaul went on one side of the mountain, and Dod and his men on the other side of the mountain. And Dod was hurrying to get away from Shaul, for Shaul and his men were surrounding Dod and his men to take them. Then the messenger came to Shaul, saying, "Hurry and come, for the Pelishites have invaded the land." So Shaul turned back from pursuing Dod, and went against the Philistines. Therefore they called that place Se'ela ha-Malakuth. And Dod went up from there and remained in strongholds at Aya Gehedi.